How's it going, everyone? Welcome to today's video, which is the first video of the new series called Fundamental Fridays. Today we're going to be talking about shutter speed. It's literally like 80 degrees in here. Guess I can't throw it right there. So today we're going to be accessing our inner Illuminati and focusing on one of the 3 points of the exposure triangle. So breaking it down and simplifying it to its bare bones, shutter speed is responsible for 2 things or effects in your image. It'll affect and change the brightness of the image, and it's going to deal mainly with the motion of your image by either freezing that moment or blurring that moment. So what is shutter speed? The shutter is a curtain that rests right in front of the film sensor or film stock and is only released or moved when you press the shutter button, briefly exposing the film or the sensor to light. Now, I would say briefly is the key word in that because we're talking about the shutter speed, which is going to be the speed in which the shutter exposes the film or the sensor. So the shutter speed is the length of time from which the shutter moves, exposes the film or the sensor, and then is moved back into place. For me, it's easier when talking about shutter speed to talk in terms of short or long, rather than fast or slow. A short shutter speed is a very short amount of time, whereas a long shutter would be a longer amount of time that the film is exposed. Now, the shutter speed is typically measured in fractions. For example, we've got 1/8. This would be read as a shutter speed of 1/8, which is 1/8 of a second. Since we're talking about time, the shutter speed will always be written in seconds or a fraction of the second. So if you see 30s or chicka chicka, that's going to be 30 seconds as compared to 1/30, which is going to be 1/30th of a second. Now that we've gotten all the technical boring stuff out of the way, let's talk practicality. What does this mean, or changing this setting, do to your images? Since we're talking about speed and time, the biggest thing that this is going to control is the motion in your image. Now, when you're walking around day to day, it's probably safe to stay around 1/100th of a second. But let's say you want to take a picture of a car. That's going to be moving a little bit faster than normal speed things. Let's talk about a few ways that you could approach this subject. Let's say the car is moving from your left side to your right side, and you just want to freeze everything in the image. You're going to want a short shutter speed so that you can freeze all of that motion. So let's flip the camera to 1/250th or 1/500th of a second, track the car with the camera, and fire. Success! You've frozen everything in the image. It's a good photo. But let's say you want to add a little bit more to the photo. Since you've frozen everything, you can see a lot of detail, though it is harder to see that the car is moving. So let's look at the same scenario, but change the shutter speed to something like 1/60th of a second. So since the shutter is going to be open a lot longer than before, we're going to capture a lot more of that motion going on in the image. Now we need to determine what the focus is going to be of our image. We can approach it several different ways. One of the ways we can approach it is the exact way we did before, which was tracking the image from left to right. As we track it with our camera and move at the same speed of the car from left to right and take the image in the middle, we're going to get a cool effect, which is going to put the focus right on the car. As it moves across the frame, everything else is going to be blurry because we're tracking at the same speed and motion of the car. Whereas if we had held still and let the car move from left to right, in a still frame, our background would be completely visible and detailed, while the car would be in motion and blurred, which is good in just as many scenarios, just depending on what you're going for. Take this image, for example. I took this image in Las Vegas about 2 years ago while standing on a bridge that walked over the strip, and I was able to shoot it at a 4-second shutter speed. The long shutter speed was able to focus on all of the buildings surrounding the strip, but all of the lights and the cars moving through gave these cool light streaks. Another cool example of a long shutter speed photo is something like this that we shot down the street from my house. And that's it. Congratulations, we've conquered the fundamentals of shutter speed, what it is, and how to utilize it. So now it's up to you to get creative, to use this fundamental basic knowledge of what shutter speed is to get creative in your shots and try something new that people haven't done before. So I want to thank you guys for checking out this video and joining me for the first Fundamental Fridays, or as I refer to it, the Quad F, Film Fundamental Fridays. So if you have any questions, chuck them down in the comments and I'll get back to you. As well, I want to hear about the fun and new ways that you're utilizing shutter speed in your photos, so send me some images on Instagram. So thanks again for watching, and make sure to stay tuned to next week's episode when I destroy my self-worth and I become an e-boy.